Hello. I'm gonna make sure, try to focus on me, camera. Hi, everyone. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I'm here today to unbox the May 2020 No, oh my goodness. And I'm here to unbox the May 2020 Knit Crate and Sock Crate. Yep, that's right. I've got both. I thought I was only going to be unwrapping the Knit Crate membership, but the Sock Crate showed up on my doorstep today. And so I am really excited that I'm going to get to unbox both of them. I cannot believe that I almost called this a ChemKnits tutorials something or other. But that's how you know we're live. And so all of my little flubs are in here as well. But I am especially excited to unbox these knit crates this month because, well, I'm going to be inside of them. And my face is going to be inside of them. And this is just amazing. And I'm really excited to be the featured influencer in the crates this month. And it's just a really, really big, special thing. And I'll talk a little bit about how we got here in a moment. But before we get into it, I do want to give some disclosures. So KnitCrate sends me the KnitCrate membership and occasionally the Sock Crate for free for me to unbox and share with all of you. And so I am an affiliate, which means that I do earn commission when you use my code, ChemKnits20, or when you use my link to make a purchase over at KnitCrate. I also happen to be an affiliate marketer with Dyer Supplier, their sister Bear Yarn company, and I will be talking about both of those during this live stream. And so, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that while I'm not paid like directly for the reviews, I do get commissions when people purchase things through my links. And speaking of links, I am going to drop my KnitCrate link into the chat. If you use the code ChemKnits20, you can save 20% off your first month. And I'm going to go ahead and drop, those are the list of questions that I've pulled up. I'm also going to drop my Dyer Supplier affiliate link. So if you'd like to go directly and get some Bear yarn similar to what is in the crates this month, you can go directly to Dyer Supplier, which is KnitCrate's sister company. And so those links are all in the description. And I'm so excited to open these. So you might notice one thing right off the bat. Instead of our standard KnitCrate teal packaging, we are in a different kind of mailer. And that is just because of the pandemic. Using soft mailers is easier for them to pack and ship out with a smaller staff at the warehouse. And yeah, just because the space of like packaging up boxes, it takes up more space and it requires more people on hand, I think. But I have a feeling that they potentially ran out of some of the teal bags, which is why we're in the black mailers. But the point is that this whole crate is about making some lemonade out of some lemons. Due to the pandemic, the mills shut down, and so some of the yarn that was originally planned for May wasn't available. And so KnitCrate reached out to me to create a DIY knit crate that contains a dyeing project. And if you guys watch any of my content, you know that this is a perfect fit for me to join in. And I even made a video for the KnitCrate channel. And so we'll talk all about this, but let's go and open the crates. Now, I am very curious about which yarn I got. I can tell this is the KnitCrate membership because it has two skeins in it that I can feel. So KnitCrate membership is $24.99 a month, and usually comes with 200 grams of yarn, plus you get some knitting patterns and crochet patterns that you can use with the yarn. This month is a little different because, again, it's the Bear yarn, and the theme is blank canvas because, as I said, it's going to be Bear yarn in there. And ooh, yay, it's your first live stream. Awesome. But so here is our little postcard. Normally there is an inspirations magazine, but it's digital this month. And so on here, yes, on the back, which I'll cover up and show you, is the link. Oh gosh, maybe I'm gonna have to cover up more. But on the back, there's the link that you can go to so you can download the Inspirations magazine and get all of the free patterns, that are included with the box, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. But here's what we all wanted to see. That's me. That's me, and a little bio of me in the box. I am so excited. Okay, so I'll read the parts of the card I can read, and then I'll show you the yarn and what else is inside. This month, we are guiding you on an exciting dye your own adventure. Your crate includes some bare yarn along with enough Kool-Aid to dye it. Rebecca Brown of ChemKnits Creations shot a new tutorial video for us to show you how to turn your bare yarn and Kool-Aid into a gorgeous new skein. If you've been bitten by the yarn dyeing bug, as we suspect you will, you can stock up on more bare yarn from Dyer Supplier at 15% off with a coupon that is good through June 10th. But the coupon is just for the 5 different bare yarn lines that are included in the KnitCrate and Sock Crate this month. So instead of the usual issue of inspirations with knitting and crochet patterns, we're re-releasing several past patterns that will work perfectly with this month's yarn bases. Some of our favorite pattern designers have also generously offered coupon codes for free or discounted patterns from their shops, so you can truly end up with a one-of-a-kind creation this month. You'll find Rebecca's videos along with our selection of patterns and coupon codes at this link. And I'm excited because I can see here that the yarn that I've got is one I haven't tried before. And so this month, we're so honored to be partnering with Rebecca Brown of ChemKnits Creations, and there's a little bio, which, okay, maybe I'll read that later, but, and there's a link to my YouTube channel. So if you're new, I'm sorry, I'm really sappy right now. I've been unboxing KnitCrate for a little over 2 years, and I never thought I'd be featured in one of the boxes. And so this is so exciting for me. Okay, but let's do this unboxing. And ooh, I've got a zip tie. Ooh, I do like using zip ties when I'm dyeing yarn. I didn't know that was going to be in there. So it looks like I got the Energize Me color vibe. So I've got 2 packets of Kool-Aid here, and I'm going to talk a lot about dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid in a moment, but I've got 1 packet of cherry, 1 packet of orange, and then we've also got this little smiley face that is Post-it notes. Isn't that cute? I actually love using these tiny little Post-its to keep track of patterns I want to do from magazines and things like that. So it's actually like a really handy notion to have on hand. I feel like maybe I have some of these somewhere from a past month. I can't remember for sure, but I'm really, really excited. All right, but let's look at the yarn. Yes, I didn't know they were gonna put zip ties in. Maybe they heard me talk about how much I love using zip ties to hold onto yarn. So this is the Nice and Round sock yarn from Dyer Supplier, which is really soft. So this is 100% superwash merino. It's fingering weight, 415 yards per 100 grams. And yeah, it certainly looks round. I'm curious, and I want to see how many plies it is. So I believe that the 75-25 and the 80-20 are both 3 ply. This is 4 ply. So that will make it a little more round. And I'm excited to dye it because I haven't dyed this one before. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm really excited. And well, I can't speak much about the color, but I can say that there are so many possibilities. And for some reference, this is one of the skeins that I dyed in the video I made for KnitCrate. And in it, I used 1 packet of orange Kool-Aid, and that's it. So you can add a fair amount of color with just 1 packet. And even these 2 skeins I dyed with 1 packet of cherry and 1 packet of grape. And even the 2 of them didn't use all the color on this, so I had enough to dye a 3rd skein. I probably could have done 2 more with heavy speckles like this. And so all of this technique, a tonal kettle dyed yarn and the speckled, these tutorials are on the KnitCrate YouTube channel, but I also have them linked in my Kool-Aid dyeing playlist. Now, to dye yarn with Kool-Aid, there are 4 main things you need. But the first one that is really important is that you need to pick the right yarn base. And that yarn base needs to be protein based. So wool, especially superwash wool, is an amazing candidate. You can also do silk and alpaca and mohair and other animal fibers, but you cannot dye synthetics like acrylic or polyester or cellulose fibers like cotton or linen or bamboo with food coloring. It's just not going to work. You can do like wool cotton blends, and I think there's a Q&A question about that I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, you can't. So the yarn choice is really important, because otherwise you'll dye the yarn and get really sad when everything rinses out. But yeah, I love dyeing yarn, and I got my start dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid. So it feels wonderful to be sharing this with all of you. Yeah, so that is what we've got in the KnitCrate. Now, normally the Inspirations magazine for your KnitCrate at $24.99, you get one knitting pattern and one crochet pattern that you can use with the yarn. But since everyone's dyeing their own colorways, there's a huge variety of patterns you might want to pick to showcase your yarn. And so that's why KnitCrate went and pulled some patterns that they thought would look great with all kinds of random variegated colorways you might create, and reached out to some of their favorite designers who partnered with them to give patterns. And let me see, where did I put it? Aha. Okay, so there's a link that if you go to, you can download the Inspirations magazine. On that link, you can find my video that I made for KnitCrate, and there's a link to my Kool-Aid. I think yes, there's a whole link to my Dyeing Yarn with Kool-Aid playlist, so that way there's more tutorials really handy there. Links to the yarns that are used on Dyer Supplier. And then there are, gosh, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 designers that are offering just free patterns off of a selection from their shop, and another, I think 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, another 6 that have a discount off of various patterns that would work well with a variety of hand-dyed colorways. And then they also are including some past, I'm just trying to, okay, some past patterns, and this is going to be awkward, that are included in here. So we've got the Be the Change knit shawl and the Ungeni cowl, which both, like, you could do a wild yarn, and both of those would look really, really great. I love doing garter stitch patterns with hand-dyed yarn. There's also the knit chain reaction cowl, and then the crocheted Caribbean Escape. I don't know if it's a poncho or a shawl. I don't remember. But so those ones are some past patterns. Oh, there's more. Oh, right, because of the sock crate, which I'll show the patterns now since I have this up. So we've got the Summer Rain Socks, which is a beautiful knit pattern, and you can see it's got a wild colorway there already. The Gooseberry Socks, which are great for a tonal. Those are crochet. Switchback Socks, and the Nectarine Socks. So whether you are a KnitCrate or a Sock Crate subscriber, you get access to all of those patterns. So there's a lot of options and choices there. Yeah, so I'm so thrilled you guys are tagging me on Instagram in your dyeing projects, and please continue to tag me once you make something out of the yarn. I'm really, really excited to see what you create. But let's open up the Sock Crate, which is going to look pretty similar. So Sock Crate is $19.95, and in it you will always get 100 grams of sock yarn, and usually you get 1 knitting and 1 crochet pattern. The reason why they included a bunch of new designers with free patterns and discounted patterns is because some people might not have had the patterns that they included, the past patterns already, and others might already have them, and so they wanted there to be something new for everyone. The little card again. Ooh, okay, this is not what I thought. I thought that it was going to be 80-20, but that's okay. It's a 75-25 sock yarn, which I really like, and I actually am out of, so I don't have any of it. I actually just placed an order using the coupon code, which now, because I think it's double down, you get like 40% off. A lot of the 5 bases that are discounted are sold out, but for some of them you can still get singles. So you can get single samples even if the 5 packs are sold out. So in the sock crate, we also have the fun Post-its. We have a little nylon zip tie that you can use, and I'll show how I use that in a minute. I don't think this one's reusable, and then we've got 1 packet of grape Kool-Aid. And as an example, here is a colorway that I created with 1 packet of grape Kool-Aid. So I believe I speckled it first, and then I took not even all of the remaining grape Kool-Aid, just a portion of it, and kettle dyed it after, so that way we could have that tonal lavender base. And so that's a fun way to do it. But you could also kettle dye with the 1 packet. As I showed here was 1 packet of the orange. And this was Dyer Supplier's Sparkle sock, which has a beautiful little glimmer to it. But yeah, the 75-25 is 3-ply. It blooms up so beautifully. The difference between the 75-25 sock yarn and 80-20, they're very similar. I honestly can't tell them apart unless I have them labeled, but I know that some sock knitters have a preference for one over the other. So yeah, it's just that 5% difference. I can't really tell. But let me see. I saw some question. If I miss questions now during this part, please re-ask later. It's hard for me to see them on the phone right now, but I am so excited with this box. Yes, so there are tons of patterns. No, I did not see Creative Grandma's review of this knit crate. Wait, what does 1995 mean? I don't know. I just saw. Oh, hi, KnitCrate. KnitCrate's in the chat. Did I say 1995 instead of 75-25? But KnitCrate's in the chat, you guys, so they can help answer questions. Sorry if I misspoke, but yes, this is the 75-25 sock yarn, which is lovely. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna really have to go check out that video. That is amazing. Yes, I love, so some of the perks of dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid is that it's food safe. So, oh gosh, guys, this is why this is a live stream. I was talking about everything you need to dye yarn with Kool-Aid, and I got sidetracked because I was excited. So you need a protein-based yarn, you need some acid, and in the case of Kool-Aid, there's citric acid in here, and that's enough for you to dye your yarn. So you'll need some water and heat, which I will usually use my stovetop or a microwave. And then you need the artificial food coloring, which is also in these packets. So something that has like red 40, blue 1, yellow 5, yellow 6, those are the types of ingredients that you want to dye yarn with food coloring. The like natural food colorings with say activated charcoal and things like that won't really work. So that is, those are the basics you need. And then basically there are unlimited ways that you could combine all those ingredients to dye your yarn. And that is the most fun. What else did I want to make sure I said before I got to this list of questions? No, I mean, I think that's about it. And so I've updated a lot. I mean, I have a lot of Kool-Aid videos and a lot of food coloring videos. And oh, it can be really hard to find Kool-Aid packets, especially different colors. So if you can't find Kool-Aid in the color that you want, get some artificial food coloring like liquid drops or Wilton icing colors. You can mix them with 1 packet of Kool-Aid to make a different color, or you can even you can even just use vinegar or citric acid, and I have tons of food coloring based tutorials on my channel that you can go and check out. And so yeah, it doesn't have to be Kool-Aid, but this is a very handy way because not everyone might have acid around. Do I have any fur babies? Yes, I have an American Eskimo white 25-pound fluff ball of a puppy who's 8, almost 9. So, you know, puppy. And he is very, very respectful of yarn and yarn-based crafts. So I haven't had any issue. He doesn't like people, but with items, he's never tried to take any of our belongings. So I've been very, very lucky with that. And KnitCrate said, hello everyone. We hope you love Rebecca's tutorial and have fun with the crates this month. Yeah, we just restocked a bit of the kit items, so you can sign up until this Sunday. Oh, right. That's another fair point. If you want to get this kit with the Kool-Aid packets and the bear yarn, there are still spots available. And if you sign up in May, you'll get sent this. You'll get sent the same crate that I was opening. It is a subscription service, so they do charge you on the first of the month. And so if you sign up on June 1st, the June one will be the first one you get. If on May 31st, yeah, there's 31 days in May. If at the end of May you sign up even the last day, you will get the May crate as your first one, and then get the June one shortly thereafter. And oh, did I not even see? What's the sneak peek? Is there this? Aha! Here's a sneak peek. Okay, so I've got. Can I zoom in? Before I go into some Q&A, normally let me zoom in. Okay, so the sneak peek for June is Getaway. And so here is the inspiration little grid, which I think is lovely. And I'm really excited to see what is going to come out next month. Sorry for the awkwardness of the computer. Oh, thank you guys. So the preview of the June box, I don't do the previews. There probably is a preview of the June box out yet now because it's the 28th, and so that's pretty late. But so the only preview I know of that I've seen is the one in here. In general, I try to avoid the previews and spoilers because I want to react to the boxes. And I didn't even talk about the color vibes. So they release, they do like a reveal of the colorways near the end of each month, so that way you can go and pick the color you want and swap your color vibe. As someone who receives this as more PR, I'm on the anything goes kind of colorway. So the color I always get is a surprise, which is so much fun. But you can also pick a more neutral tone color family, a warm toned and a cool toned. And so that is a lot of fun. You just noticed that, oh yes. So the KnitCrate boxes, some of them become treasure boxes, and so the kids draw on them. But lately, they use them as supports for Brio to make like really tall mountains. And yeah, you can see we've taped them all closed, and so they're now our bricks that we use and we play with. So they get really excited when these show up. What did I want to pull? I would check the KnitCrate Instagram for the June preview. But yes, I generally avoid, except for I obviously knew what was happening this month. The pamphlet pics show up better than the laptop. Yeah, no, I mean, the reason for the Inspirations magazine being digital this month is just because of the logistics and the unknowns of what was going to be open when, and they wanted to make sure that they could create a wonderful, fun crate for everyone for this month. And yeah, I think it's amazing. All right, let me pull up some questions, because I got a lot of questions about dyeing yarn with food coloring. But first, I wanted to show what I like to do with these zip ties. So what I like to do is use them as an additional tie when I'm dyeing yarn. And I'm not actually going to secure it because I'm going to want to use this later. But by hooking it like this, it's a way that you can sort of pick up and manipulate the yarn without really stretching it or snagging it accidentally. And as an additional tie, it makes it really easy to help if things start to get tangled, because unlike a tie that's the same color as your yarn, yeah, that just makes it better. And one other little tip is that if If you only have 100 or 200 grams of yarn and you want to play with multiple techniques, you can divide it up into mini skeins and make your own little fade set as you play with different techniques. So there's no reason why you have to dye 100 grams at a time, but I mean, it's fun. Oh, and the one other thing I wanted to show is I think I have a neutral colorway. A lot of Kool-Aid flavors are very bright, but if you mix, wait, nope, wrong one. That was the wrong brown. If you mix, and the colors are coming, this is coming off more yellow, it's really more reddish. But if you mix 1 packet of grape Kool-Aid with 1 packet of orange, you can get a beautiful sort of warm brown, which definitely looks way more yellow on camera right now. It is much more, it's more reddish, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, this is one that I did. And so that's one of the neutral, what's the neutral vibe called? The all natural vibe got a purple and an orange for the KnitCrate. All right. Oh, so KnitCrate said the June sneak peek can be found on magazine.knitcrate.com, but the last day for Rebecca's box is Sunday, May 31st. Oh, yes. So I was saying the perks of dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid. I am personally comfortable using my kitchen pots and pans to do this. And so that's one of the reasons why we went with food coloring, because you don't need dedicated dye equipment, and it makes it accessible for, like, if you have access to a kitchen, or even if you have access to a jar and the sunlight, you can play around with dyeing yarn at home. And so it's so fun. And yes, my kids love to do it. Lucas's first colorway, gosh, he's now 6. So he's been doing this with me since I forget if he was 2 or 3 when he did his first one. Ryder was technically 1, but he was like a couple weeks shy of 2 when he did his first. But yeah, his first one was with Kool-Aid. I think he actually used probably cherry, orange, and grape as well. Yeah, all right, let me pull up the questions, which I pulled from Instagram and on Facebook. I'm not going to be reading names, but actually I want to move this so I can see the chat. And so if you guys have questions, please go ahead, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer. All right. So from Instagram, one of the first questions is the favorite mix to make aqua. As far as I'm aware, there's really only one blue Kool-Aid color that is available, and that is blue raspberry lemonade. I believe there was another like mystery color that turned out to be blue at one point, but I have never played with that one. Unfortunately, blue and the greens and yellows are not very pigmented at all. So if you really want a beautiful blue, I recommend going with liquid drops. But the blues that you get from Kool-Aid are beautiful. They're just not very pigmented. And so that is fun. Oh, you got yours from KnitCrate today. That's awesome. Okay. So the next question is, how does Kool-Aid work on wool cotton blends? Which is a great question. So the first yarn that I ever dyed with Kool-Aid was 80% wool, it was 20% wool, 80% acrylic. The colors for that were much more pastel because only the wool fibers took up the dye. But I still got colorways that worked, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't dyed wool cotton, but I've dyed 50% wool, 50% viscose from bamboo with food coloring, and it comes out really cool, almost a little heathered feeling, because you can see it depends on how the fibers are spun together, because the wool will take up the color and the cotton won't really. So it'll feel more muted than say 100% wool, but you can absolutely dye it. Next question. Does the smell ever come out? So one downside of Kool-Aid is that there's flavor in it and it has an odor. Shoving my face into this, barely smell anything, and I dyed it a little over a month ago. So there's definitely a smell that hangs around a little bit, but it does over time dissipate. Can you use tie-dye kits to dye cotton yarn? Yes, absolutely. And that's what I like to do. With the yarn you dye, do I knit and crochet with it? Yes. A lot of the yarn I dye ends up in my Etsy shop, but I do also knit and crochet with it. I did not bring up any of the items today, but I often will post pictures on my Instagram and stuff, even though I guess there hasn't been one for a while, a new post. I've never seen mixed berry, so I don't know if that flavor is also blue. I've never found mango, which apparently is beautiful. Only lemonade, which is, I believe a source one point said that a packet of Kool-Aid lemonade is equivalent to 1 drop of McCormick's yellow, which is not a lot of pigment at all. Clear soap is the best for washing. Yeah, I mean, I think any dish soap is fine. I mean, a wool wash or something could work well too. I use clear because I want to show if there's any bleeding, and I don't want to think that it's the color of the soap tinting it. That's the only reason why I use clear soap. Yes, so the sparkle yarn I used is the Sparkle Sock from Dyer Supplier. And if you want even more sparkle, check out their silvery sock. It is amazing. It is jam-packed with stellina, and I love that one. So how do you get the yarn to sparkle? It has stellina spun into it. Okay, so there was another question about getting blue that I already answered. Is it possible to use too much vinegar? And in my experience, no. You can use too much citric acid, which is really only an issue when you are using a sparkle yarn. Now, I dyed this with Kool-Aid, so the amount of citric acid in here did not dull that shine, that sparkle. It's still beautiful. But if you expose yarn with stellina to something that is too acidic for too long, it can dull the stellina a bit, which I haven't experienced personally. This is just shared knowledge from like the indie dyer community. So I've always tended to try to use vinegar with any sparkle stellina yarn that I'm dyeing. But the Kool-Aid stuff, it worked fine. So I think the exposure to acid, time, and heat are the 3 factors that can cause that sparkle to dull. But I haven't pushed it to see where that happens. But basically, it's easier to get a pH that is way too low with citric acid, but vinegar is at sort of like straight vinegar hasn't damaged yarn. Even though you don't need straight vinegar, you should dilute it just to save the vinegar. But yeah, so I hope that helps. I found that when I speckle, my Kool-Aid had some color breaking. I have not seen breaking from speckling with Kool-Aid before. Gosh, I haven't observed any breaking from speckling with grape. Now, there's a question further down, which I guess I'll just move up since we're talking about that. Is there a way to purposefully break Kool-Aid? And yes, if you check out Dye Pot Weekly 38, I tried to dip dye some yarn in grape Kool-Aid to get it to break. Now, color breaking is when you have a mixture of a couple different colored dye molecules and you mix them all together. So say you see a purple, and then when you are dyeing the yarn, you see it split, it break into, say, the reds and the blues that made it up. And we call that breaking. And so purples can be pretty tricky to dye with food coloring, but you can also take advantage of it. And if you check out any of my breaking violet videos, you'll be amazed with those results. So grape Kool-Aid is red 40 and blue number 1, and it does break, but there's so much more red in it that it's hard to capture. And I really needed to use a non-superwash yarn to really see that blue at the end. Your orange broke. Interesting. Well, I mean, I suppose it's possible that just the way that it was mixed, that there could be some separate yellow and red particles in there. But I haven't experienced that personally, but now I'm curious and want to try. One of my favorite Kool-Aid colors. Ooh. Grape, I like grape. I like black cherry a lot because it's really pigmented. And then I like all the greens and the blues. I mean, I guess my favorite is doing a rainbow with Kool-Aid. That's something I've always loved. But blue and purple are my favorite colors. So that's why I'm drawn to those. Use Hawaiian Punch, Berry Blue Typhoon, more blue than red. Ooh, cool. So the next question, if you use vinegar to pre-soak and then dip dye with Kool-Aid, is it possible to break Kool-Aid? I think it would be hard. I would avoid pre-soaking with vinegar. So when you want these colors to break, when you're dip dyeing, this happens because of a rate difference. So the reds, red 3, which isn't in any drink products really, because it tends to not be happy in solution. But so red 3, red 40 strike really fast. Blue is the slowest. So when you dip dye, the reds will strike to the yarn first. And I don't think I have anything broken up here. Okay, so if we're dip dyeing, the reds will strike first, but then the blues might not quite strike yet. So the blues take longer. So you can capture more of those blues along the whole skein and on the other end. Now, normally when I'm dip dyeing to break colors, I'll start with, if I'm using like a Wilton color, I'll start with 8 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and then I typically use a ½ teaspoon of Wilton's icing color per 100 grams. And that concentration of acid is enough that the reds will strike. The blues still need some more acid. And so I can save those bright blues and get them all over the other end, which is super, super fun and beautiful. But with Kool-Aid, the more packets of Kool-Aid that you put in, the more acid you're adding to your pot. And so therefore, the more acidic it is, then the harder it is to get the colors to break. I'm like a real dye chemist. Oh, thank you. I'm hoping that I'm keeping this simple enough. And so keep the questions coming. And if I miss them, feel free to ask again. Next question. How well does a wool nylon blend work with Kool-Aid? Pretty spectacular. These are wool nylon blend. This was dyed with Kool-Aid is a wool nylon blend. It's non-superwash. It's the Dyer Supplier marled stock yarn, which is amazing. This was more than the equivalent of 1 packet's worth though. I have a live stream that I did this month where I dyed a lot of the yarn that I'm pulling up. How many packets of Kool-Aid is too many to use for 1 pot or skein? Oh gosh. I feel like, oh dear. The wall's gonna come crashing down on me. I think the most, I mean, there've been some hand painted rainbows I've done where I've used 3 to 4 packets of each color. So I've probably used maybe even up to 15 packets on 1 skein and so you could probably use even more and push it a bit further. But in general, this was 2 packets on 1 skein. This was 1 packet on 1 skein. This is the equivalent of maybe 2.5 packets on 1 skein, but the skein started off as a pale gray. So, you know, you don't need to have a ton. It just depends on how vibrant you want the colors to be. The copper color. So this is more of like this is a creamsicle kind of orange color. It's showing up, the colors are showing up a bit weird. This was 1 packet of orange. This brown, which is a more neutral, it's less yellow or green that it looks on my screen right now. This was 1 packet of orange plus 1 packet of grape. And this one was cherry with maybe a hint of grape. You've been on a Kool-Aid dye kick since this month's box was coming. It's so much fun. Yes. Okay, so the next, okay, so if I use 2 packets of grape, will the color be darker? Yes. The more packets you use, the more pigment there is, but the more acid there is. So the faster the colors might strike, but the more dye, the slower. So there's a whole, like, it could be fun. I haven't done like a set of like 1 versus like 10 packets of Kool-Aid or something like that. Once I can go back to the grocery store again, then maybe I'll give that a shot. It's really hard to order Kool-Aid packets online, like really hard. So I haven't been able to stock back up, but of course, Thank you, KnitCrate. All right, so I can't find Kool-Aid powder in Canada, but I have Gatorade powder. Have you ever tried it? I plan to try soon. I have not tried Gatorade powder, but I have dyed with Gatorade bottles in Dye Pot Weekly 95, and it works great. The one thing, and this, I brought these up for a little segue. Well, hopefully not getting Kool-Aid all over my house. So here is some remnant of some red cherry Kool-Aid. And okay, so you can see how dark that is. That's from one of these packets. These little packets are packed with color. There's maybe, I measured, it's about a half tablespoon of volume in one packet. Here is a Kool-Aid mixture. And this one has sugar in it, and it is so much paler. And I think you need 8 heaping tablespoons to be equivalent to 1 packet of Kool-Aid. And so that ultimately means that in this huge container that I bought as a backup, there's not that much pigment. It looks like a lot. So getting these huge ones isn't super cost effective. And since there's so much sugar in there, the food coloring is actually a lot more dilute. So you don't necessarily even get super dark speckles from when I played with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But while I haven't tried a lot of other powdered drink mixes, they should work. They just might not have a ton of pigment. So that's the possibility. But again, if you want more pigment, I recommend going for like, well, my favorite food coloring to use would be Wilton Colorite food coloring system. It's so pigmented, and you can get, there's only 8 colors in the line, but 5 of them are single colors. So like one is just yellow number 5, one is just red 3, and they have some mixing guides in there. And so that's a lot of fun. But I've also used like McCormick's Americolor, dollar store brands. Ultimately, the pigments are the same. So you can't really go wrong. How hard is it to make a sweater quantity look the same? It would be easier, I think. It would probably be easier to do with food coloring, with like liquid food coloring or gel food coloring versus Kool-Aid, because you can control the acid. If you wanted to get like a semi-solid like range that is all the same, then I would recommend starting with cool water, no vinegar, maybe even use a 5-gallon bucket. Use as much water as you can, mix the dye in there, add the yarn with no acid, let it sit in there a little bit. The yarn was pre-soaked, let it sit in there for a bit, and then go in and add acid, let it sit for even like, you could do a cool vat and let it sit for a few days, and then heat it later. Would be a way to get like a even coverage across like a large quantities worth of yarn. Oh, Susan Cram, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. And I like that little like sticker that you picked. Thank you so much. Can you mix Kool-Aid with Wilton's food coloring? Yes, you can definitely mix brands. Absolutely. If you use enough packets of grape, can you get a color closer to black? I'm not sure. I haven't tried that. I have once ended up with black from food coloring. And so it's really hard to get black with food coloring just because blacks tend to lean green or purple because there isn't a black food coloring molecule. So they're all mixtures, they all break. Wilton, since I've been doing this, Wilton has changed their black formula 3 times. So I currently have like 3 or maybe even 4 different formulas of black here, and they all break slightly differently. So blacks can be hard. And so these days, if I want black, I go for commercial dyes. A super chat. So it's like a tip jar. There's like a little $ below the chat. And so you can give contributions to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. But hey, while you're watching, please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. That's the biggest way you can support my content here. I publish at least 2 new yarn dyeing videos every single week, and you don't want to miss any of it. And what was I going to say? and I forget, because I know you told me how to pronounce this once, Kenyatta. And I will practice before I do your sponsored video. Kenyatta Adams, thank you so, so much for the super chat. Thank you, thank you. Whoops, that was a question that I almost posted in chat. But I'm going to go ahead and drop my net. Did I do it? I'm going to go ahead and drop for the KnitCrate, and so if you sign up for KnitCrate membership today, you would get 200 grams of bare yarn, 2 packets of Kool-Aid that could be either grape and orange, grape and cherry, or cherry and orange, and it also gets, you know, the other goodies, the zip ties and the Post-it notes, plus you get access to all those patterns that we talked about at the beginning for $24.99 a month, and that includes shipping, and it's a lot of fun. How do you make a super chat? So at the bottom of the chat screen, there's that little next to there's an emoji, custom emoji, even though I guess I don't have any custom emojis for my channel. I wonder if I could do that without having to set up like a channel membership or something. But next to the emoji panel, then there's a little $sign. Oh, thank you so much for binge watching. How do you sponsor one of my dye-alongs? So I have a series called Dye Pot Weekly, and I do offer sponsorship slots for that. But spots this year have all been pretty limited in that they sell out really, really quickly right now. And they're even more limited than usual at the moment just because, so I work from home, but without school and camp, my family is home all day as well. And so my production times have been lengthened a little bit, more than a little bit. And so, yeah, things are taking me longer at the moment, but I usually post when things become available. And if you message me on Etsy, I can add you to a waiting list to message when I release new slots. Is there a way to test the color without actually using yarn? Ooh, that's a great question. And I feel like I'm blurry. I'm like, oh well. Yes, that's a great question. So one way that I do it is often I'll dip a paper towel into the color I've mixed. It's not always great at showing the total intensity, but it does give a good estimation at the hue that you're going for. And so I often use that as I'm mixing colors as just a way to sort of test where we are. And you can also see if colors break. Think about, when you think of color breaking, think about if you've ever drawn like on a coffee filter with markers and then sprayed it with water and watched the colors like change and spread out. That's breaking. Okay, so let me see. Okay, Gatorade. Oh, I'm glad you made it. All right, does the color dyed yarn with Kool-Aid fade faster than acid dyes? And a sort of complementary question, how light fast is yarn dyed with Kool-Aid compared to commercial acid dyes? This is a great question. In general, I would say food coloring is not as light fast as commercial acid dyes. That being said, I have items that are over 10 years old that are still super vibrant that I dyed with food coloring and Kool-Aid. For example, the very first yarns I ever dyed, I'd have a 10-hour Afghan pattern that I knit on size 50 needles. And in that, a lot of my first hand-dyed yarn is in that blanket. And there's still pigment in there. And that's been out like on a couch and stuff constantly for over a decade. But I don't have a good comparison. And since they were 80% acrylic, it's hard to know if I saw fading in there. My favorite winter hat was dyed with Kool-Aid and food coloring. The first 100% wool yarn I ever dyed, I wear it all the time in the winter, out in the sun, in the snow, and there's maybe a tiny bit of fading, but it's still really, really vibrant. But I have seen fading on short time scales. So over months, I left a butterfly I knit on a windowsill, and it got a lot of direct sunlight, and I saw fading on that. And even on wet yarn, I did a test because I had not observed fading on fast scales myself, but outside, without any like even windows to filter out light, outside in direct sunlight, I did see over the span of hours fading, especially on wet yarn. So I do not recommend letting your yarn dry out in the sun. I just don't. But if you store things like in a basket versus like hanging it on your wall, then it should hold up really, really well. And I've been really, really happy with the way that it's held up. Enough that I keep dyeing yarn with Kool-Aid. And even my kids, there's I don't know how far back, but there's an Instagram picture. I'm just at ChemKnits on Instagram. There's a picture of all of us wearing winter hats, and 3 of them were dyed with Kool-Aid and or food coloring. And you know, my sons every day wore hats that they dyed with Kool-Aid, and you know, they still have tons of color after constant use and getting wet and being used outside. Oh gosh, when will I spin the roving that I dyed a couple of dye pot weeklies ago? I don't remember which roving that was, and if, gosh, dye pot weeklies. Gosh, maybe if it was a recent roving, it may have gone to a sponsor. A lot of the roving videos that I've done recently have been sponsored by viewers, and so I actually have a couple more that I have to film coming up that I'm really excited to do. So can you bleach over dyed yarn for an acid wash effect? No. Bleach can damage wool, will like dissolve wool fibers. I don't recommend bleaching. Does the main KnitCrate box offer the sparkling yarn? No, it's not one of the ones that is discounted either, but it is available at dyersupplier.com, and I'm going to drop my Dyer Supplier affiliate link into the chat. So Dyer Supplier is KnitCrate's sister company, and they have a lot of like ethically sourced, like beautiful yarn bases, and I really enjoy them. So in addition to the sparkly one that I've showed here, the marled sock yarn is another favorite. I love the 80-20, the 75-25. Those are the ones I've dyed the most. There's a few others that I've dyed a fair amount of. Did I already open? Yes. But I guess now is a good time for me to re-show off, and then I'll get back to, I still even have more questions, and I'm willing to hang out longer and answer more. So the KnitCrate this month, the theme is blank canvas, and with it came 200 grams of bare yarn. So I got 200 grams of the Nice and Round, which is 100% superwash merino wool. And it also came, like, I don't remember what colors I got, with 2 packets of Kool-Aid. So you can create some beautiful, beautiful colorways. And we have some nylon zip ties that can be extra ties, and also some really fun little Post-its. So you enjoy the 75-25 merino nylon from the month. Yeah, I just ordered some more 75-25, and I forget, maybe the 2-ply was still available. I got some of that today. I don't know. I'll do an unboxing when that box comes. Do I have any roving to dye and spin because you want to see me spinning soon? I have some spinning videos that I still need to edit. It's just they keep getting like bumped in the queue. Yeah, I have like, I think I have a video of me spinning the highlighter yarn that I dyed, and that's just been like waiting. I'd love to like bring out the wheel and spend some more time spinning, and maybe do some like beauty shots like I did with a really old, one of my first spinning videos. So let me see. Okay, so if I wanted to mix it up and use Kool-Aid and food coloring in separate bottles for a tie-dye inspired project, should I add vinegar to the food coloring or pre-soak with vinegar added, or maybe a combination of 2? This really comes down to personal preference. Personally, I like to pre-soak my yarn in vinegar for hand painting techniques, and not add vinegar directly to the dyes. And the reason for that is that some food coloring will start to crash out of solution when you add acid to it. And in particular, it's that red number 3, the one that strikes the fastest. It gives us that beautiful broken violet that is my signature colorway. But yeah, so therefore I don't like to add the acid. I like to add the acid into the dye and get it in contact with the yarn as fast as possible and have that all together as quickly as possible. So that's why these days, if I'm going to break violet with dip dyeing, I will add the dye to the pot and then immediately start dip dyeing the yarn. But I'll have the acid in the pot there. So in this circumstance, I would pre-soak the yarn in vinegar just because that's what I'm used to. But a lot of people like to have vinegar in with their dyes. There's a lot of personal preference in there. Let me see. Wait, Suze. How do you get the patterns? Yes, the patterns. So on the card here, there is a website. And like, oh wait, I know what I'll do. I was like, how can I keep everything covered? Cover the coupon codes. Okay. So over here, there's on the card, there's a website. And if you go to that, you will have the Inspirations magazine that you can download, and then how to download all the various patterns and all the coupon codes from the designers for this month. Will you ever write a crafty book? I'd love to. I don't have anything near enough to like pitch to a publisher or something, but if you know a publisher who would be interested, feel free to send them my direction. I'd love to, but there's nothing anywhere close to being in the works. It's sort of like a lofty someday goal. Do you have a video comparing 100% superwash versus some superwash blend with nylon? Huh, no. But I could do that now. I haven't ever. Okay, that's not true. I have definitely, I dye, say Knit Picks Swish, which is 100% superwash merino, and Knit Picks Stroll, which is 75-25. I put those two side by side all the time, but they're different weights. The Swish I use is DK, and then the other is fingering. But right here, the Nice and Round has no nylon, and the 75-25 does. So I can, that's a video there. I can do these side by side. That's a great suggestion. I need to, if I had a pen, I would write it down. Let me see. Let's put this here. Lots of stars, so I don't forget. Do you dye worsted, sport weight, or only sock weight? I dye a little bit of everything. I dye unspun roving occasionally. I dye, yeah, like bulky, super bulky, jumbo. I've dyed lace weight, so everything in between. I definitely dye sock weight the most because I love to make like shawlettes and stuff, and I love lace, and so that's the weight that I love to use. So it's the one that I use, that I dye the most. How would you recommend hanging your yarn to dry inside? So we have a bathtub that we don't really use, and I set up a big drying rack in it, and I hang the yarn up in there. I also have, I don't know if it was in the chat or if someone are on my question list about putting the yarn in the spin cycle of your washing machine. In theory, like that would work. I'd worry a tiny bit about tangles, but I have something called a spin dryer, which isn't something that like a hobby dyer necessarily needs, but it is functionally the spin cycle of a washing machine, just as a standalone like kitchen trash can sized object. And so that is able to spin out almost all the liquid and makes the yarn not drip, and it makes it dry faster. And it is, the company, like I was connected with the company and they sent it to me to review, and I thought like, okay, I'll store this like in this closet when I'm not using it. It has not left my kitchen. It has become like such a valuable tool that I love, love, love the spin dryer. But you can use a salad spinner too. That works great. Yeah, salad spinners work great. Okay, wait, there was a question. Okay, how would you approach dyeing roving with Kool-Aid? So I've done this a few ways. I actually had some roving that I speckled. I don't know if I did a video on me spinning it. I did a blog post for sure on me spinning it because I did it 2 different ways, but I sort of just added a little bit of the dye to the outside. I don't know if I've done a lot of other roving with food coloring. well, no, I've done a lot of roving with food coloring. I don't know if I've done a lot of other roving with Kool-Aid specifically, but I might do, you could do some kettle dyeing. The big thing with roving or anything that is not in superwash is just to have some care. I think that the step where you're most likely to cause felting is the washing and rinsing step at the end. Anytime you're squeezing or gently rubbing, but gently moving it even in hot water isn't enough to cause felting. And so I do have a lot of roving dyeing videos on my channel that you can go check out. And I show like the washing and everything so you can see how I treated it. And I will share whenever mistakes happen. But I also have a video on spinning felted roving that a friend sent me. So roving is not always beyond repair. Is it possible to dip dye using cold water and steam the yarn to set it? Yes, but the colors might not strike. It might take a long time. So what I would recommend doing is, if this is something that maybe if you don't have a stove top or something, if you have like a microwave, I would get the water or use really hot tap water for the dip dyeing, because then the color should start striking a bit and then steam set to like finalize it. And Elaine Whalegum, I hope I pronounced your name right, but thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you, thank you. Can you hand knit your own blanks to save money? Yes. And if you're curious about what the question means by blanks, a knit blank is a piece of knit or crocheted fabric that you make with the intention to dye and then unravel. And this is a really easy way to make gradients, and you can even do like, you can write like a love message on it and then turn it into socks and know that that message is in there. And there's so many things that you can do that are super, super fun. But yes, you can make your own. I have hand crocheted some blanks in the past. I even have some cheap like kids crank knitting machines that I've used to make my own blanks. And so, yeah. Can you use Stardust mica pigment to dye yarn? Unfortunately, no, it's not gonna stick. All right. Yes, salad spinners are great. Oh gosh, if I missed someone's question, I am so, so sorry. Okay. Okay, some of the terms. Okay, so when I use when I say exhausted, with reference to dyeing, I think the question is about some of these terms. So when I say the dye is exhausted, that means that all of the dye has bound to the yarn and it is all absorbed into the yarn. And so the color is in the yarn versus in the water. And I often check this with like, I'll use like a metal spoon to check, or sometimes just lifting the yarn out of the pot to see if there's still color in there. So once the water is clear, then I've said the dye has exhausted. And then breaking, I've talked about earlier, but breaking is, I guess the easiest example or the most relatable example is on a coffee filter. If you draw a black marker on it and spray it with water, you will see that black break apart into a lot of different pigments. And that's a similar effect as what you can see on yarn as well. Do I even use my spindle anymore? I have not used my spindle. I think I used it a tiny bit when I first got my wheel when I was 29. I am now 36. No, how old am I? I think I'm 36. I don't know. So yeah, I haven't used my spindle in a while, and that's something I definitely want to play around with. I had a lot of plans for things I wanted to do and things I wanted to film that I've had to push aside because, as I said, with my family here all the time, there's a lot of things I can still dye, but it's harder when I basically have shorter filming blocks now because if it was just me, like oftentimes I would have like a meal, I'd take out a meal in the morning, and then, you know, when I wanted to eat, I'd go wash up and then go in like the other room and eat. But when like my kids need access to the kitchen, I can't have it being like my dye studio for like a full 8 hours that they're at school usually. And so it's just, everything's more complicated. But drop spindles, if you want to play with spinning, a drop spindle is a great way to learn. I found the wheel a lot easier to use, but it's much more of an investment. So I highly recommend drop spindles. One of the problems is my birthday is in December, so it's always like confusing. Yes, I'm 36. So I'm like, wait, what year is it? 2021? No, 2020. And then so I'm like, no, yeah, I was very confused. What's the best way to get a metallic look on yarn? And that would be to use some yarn with Stellina or Lurex or Angelina in it. Those all have sparkle and shine. So Dyer Suppliers Silvery Sock has, I think it's 20% Stellina. It is the sparkliest yarn I've ever seen ever. I've dyed it a handful of times on my channel, and yeah, it's one that I recommend. My spinning wheel is a Kromsky Fantasia, and I love it. It has a very small footprint. I can fit it in. My house is weird. I don't have a basement. So like my like furnace is up like on it in a finished attic, and the water heater is down like in my living room basically, but there's a little spot in there, and that's where the wheel lives, next to the water heater. Have I ever dyed cotton silver? No. I don't think so. I need to get more fiber reactive dyes and play around more with that. That's one of my goals for this year. Maybe it will become a goal for 2021. We'll see. Like everything is in flux, but I'm excited that the weather is getting warm so I can move more things outside. Okay. Maybe other color combinations in Kool-Aid. So you can definitely mix a lot of different colors of Kool-Aid together. But the thing to keep in mind is that there is a huge pigmentation difference. Pink lemonade is a very soft, beautiful, like pale pink. Cherry is bam, a lot of pink pigment. So if you mix pink lemonade with cherry, the cherry is going to dominate. If you mix just about anything with the cherry is going to dominate. But the most pigmented flavors would be cherry, grape, black cherry, and orange, I would say, are the most pigmented colors. The least are lemonade and pink lemonade, with a lot of others ranging in the middle. There are a lot of pink varieties. But if you check out Dye Put Weekly 200, I did a rainbow using, I think I use a total of 7 packets. So you can see how pigmented the various colors are. And yeah, it's a fun video for this milestone that happened to come out like this month. May has been an awesome month for ChemKnits. Let's see, blending colors. I accidentally got some lovely fall shades, and I'd like to repeat that intentionally. Advice, technique. The best advice I can give for repeating colors and mixing colors is to create a dye notebook, aka a diary. I actually have one in my Zazzle shop, but you can just use any kind of notebook. I just think the DYEARY is really, really fun. And so by keeping track of what you're doing in some kind of way, whether like with written notes or pictures, keeping track of what you do is the best way to try to replicate it in the future. And so if you are mixing a color, measure the volume of the Kool-Aid or the number of drops that you're putting in, and that makes it easier to try to recreate. But yeah, I guess that's what I recommend. Is RIT dye pretty easy to use to dye yarn? Yeah, I have a few videos with RIT. The very first videos I ever did with RIT, I used way too much pigment. So don't go off of what the bottle recommends, because the RIT bottles recommend using enough color so that way you basically will have excess pigment. So if you're going to try to dye a dress and over dye it a certain color, you don't want there to be just enough pigment to absorb the garment, because then you'll have patchy tonal color. If you want more solid, you want a lot of pigment there. And so therefore, the recommendations are like, the dye goes a lot further than it looks. And actually RIT, the So I've mostly used liquid RIT dyes, but the powdered, you can get speckles on cotton with the powdered RIT dye, which was amazing. Your tap water seems to have a lot of minerals. Can I use it to wash the yarn? I'm not sure how the minerals would affect it, but the pH of your rinse water definitely can cause a difference. I haven't done a test between like distilled water and tap water. My tap water runs slightly acidic, which is ideal for dyeing yarn and washing yarn. You are more likely to see bleeding, which is dye coming out of the yarn when you're rinsing it, if your water is a little alkaline. So if your pH is higher than 7, or if the water is hot, that could also disrupt the interaction between the dye and the yarn. There was a question somewhere. I thought there was a question about bleeding. Oh, yeah. Okay, I missed that question. From Instagram, what happens if the water won't clear after repeated rinses? Well, then there's a few things I would try. I would honestly pour vinegar over the yarn and let it soak for a while. That's the main thing that I would do. And potentially, depending on how much color was coming out, I might microwave it or put it on the stove and heat it a second time, because just to make sure everything is set. There is a point where if you use too much dye, and I don't know how much Kool-Aid that is, but if you use too much, the yarn can only absorb a certain amount, so stuff will start to come out. So that is something to consider. What is over dyeing yarn? So over dyeing yarn would be, say, if I had this sherbet orange colorway, and I hate orange. I hate it. I want it to be something else. I want something that is more like a blood orange red color. So I'm going to go, so then you could over dye it. So you could take this color and grab, say, a bunch of cherry packets of Kool-Aid and cover it up. Some of that orange, the orange will still be there, but by over dyeing it, you can alter the color that you have. So when I say over dyeing, I'm not talking about adding too much dye. It's about taking something that already has color in it and dyeing it again. Yeah. Oh, I need to see if I have more silk hankies around. I've only dyed them a couple of times. Oh, awesome. Yes, if you can use RIT Dye More Synthetic to dye acrylic yarn, and I have a couple videos on that. Would I suggest the powder or liquid RIT? I would suggest the liquid. Mainly, I started with that, mainly because you don't need a mask. Anytime I'm dealing with a commercial dye powder, I wear a respirator mask and safety glasses and gloves. You probably want gloves with standard RIT, but you don't need, it's already in liquid form, so you don't need the mask of any kind. And well, masks right now are hard to get, but you will want dedicated dye equipment. You don't want to use the same pots and pans you use for food with RIT dyes. Silk hankies, which it's like if you take the silk cocoon from silkworms and then they sort of like stretch it out on these frames, you get these like thin layers of silk that you can then sort of like pull apart and spin, and it's really fun if anyone's curious about silk hankies. Welcome. You guys are making this stream awesome. And okay, this is my age showing. I'm like, my back's a little sore. Oh man, but yeah, I'm having a blast. And I have to say, well, I want to say a huge thank you to KnitCrate for many reasons. And maybe I didn't read my bio earlier. I'll read it in case you guys are curious about my background. But I have to say a special thank you for the Post-it notes, because it means I can hold up the whole card without giving out the like links and coupon codes that are needed. So here is what they say about me, which I helped. This month, we're so honored to be partnering with Rebecca Brown of ChemKnits Creations. Rebecca is a passionate knitter and yarn dyer. While working on her PhD in biochemistry and molecular pharmacology, Rebecca started ChemKnits in 2008 as a lab notebook to chronicle her knitting and early yarn dyeing adventures. In 2010, she created the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel and started filming yarn dyeing experiments with food coloring and Kool-Aid. Over time, the channel has evolved, and you can join Rebecca on her journey into different ways to apply color to yarn: acid dyes, natural dyes, even candy. Rebecca has adopted Miss Frizzle's model. Take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Her enthusiasm and love for dyeing yarn will make you want to give it a try yourself. Watch Rebecca's amazing yarn dyeing tutorials here. And that's right here. So make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you get notifications whenever I release a new video or start a live stream. I definitely do at least 3 yarn dyeing live streams a month. Each month I do a dye along. So around the 15th of the month on Instagram and Facebook, I share an inspiration photo. And so that's something, and I do a live stream based on that. I always do a KnitCrate unboxing, and there's some other unboxings and stuff that I do as well. Aw, thank you for joining KnitCrate because of me. And yeah, I definitely will give my fair opinion on everything. But overall, it's everything has always been 99% positive. I have to say, KnitCrate's ability to adapt to the pandemic and to, in general, respond to customer feedback. Some of the changes that I've seen over these last couple of years of unboxing have been based on your requests of the company, including letting you guys pick your color vibe, giving you that choice to pick the color that you wanted, and more. And so it's just been really fun to watch that evolution. And I really, really enjoy working with them. And I don't know, so another little funny story. Starting this year in 2020, KnitCrate started featuring different members of the yarn community in each month, which I think is amazing. And I love learning about a lot of different designers and other people, other YouTubers and stuff like that. But what was so funny is when this first came out, I was like, wow, this is a good idea. People were like, oh, Rebecca, are you going to be in one? And I was like, no, I'm not going to be in one. And so then when they reached out to me, I was like, the irony is that I was asked if I was going to be featured in one. And I said no. And that was the truth. That was absolutely the truth. This all came up in, this was we're making lemonade out of lemons. I know that the colorways that they had designed for May will come out at some point. And KnitCrate, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how that's working out, or what month was maybe what month before. I don't know how that's working, but it's been an honor and a pleasure to be involved with this and to share something I am so passionate with more people. And it's just, I don't know, the welcome all new subscribers, people who are finding me for the first time. I am thrilled to be part of your color and yarn journey. And so I just am so excited, and I consider all of this so collaborative. I take requests and questions that you ask to heart to design new videos, and oh, let's try the side-by-side with nylon and without nylon and see how that compares. Those kinds of questions are interesting to me, because sometimes there's not a big difference. Other times there's a big difference, and we learn, and I feel like we all learn together. And that's why I like trying things for the first time on camera, because then we can all learn from my successes, and there's a lot of success, and my mistakes. There's a lot of those too. Yarn science, absolutely. Thank you, KnitCrate. You were thinking about getting 3 more packets of each Kool-Aid to make an extra deep in color. Yeah, I think an extra 3. Yeah, that would definitely deepen the color. The more you add, the deeper the color will get. But it is potentially easier to find, say, McCormick's food coloring at your grocery store. I know that Kool-Aid packets can be really hard to find online, because I've tried. I have had some success on eBay. That's how I used to get green and blue Kool-Aid colors. There happens to be a supermarket fairly close to me. There's a Stop and Shop on VFW Parkway in Dedham for any Massachusetts people, and they typically carry a full rainbow of Kool-Aid colors. And so that's a place where I can go and stock up on them. But a lot of stores might only have 1 to 3 flavors. Have I figured out a good way to make mint green? It's your favorite color and you want to try. I would actually mix some blue with some orange. So for the Wilton Color-Right system, orange is, oh wait, I can look this up. Orange is yellow number 5 and is, wait. I always mix up yellow 5 and yellow 6. One of them is yellow, one of them is more orange. But whichever one is the orange pigment, I've mixed that with, to get a nice mint color with the Color-Right system, I would do 1 drop of blue, 1 drop of orange. I'm not sure the relative ratios, so I don't know if it's like I would start, if you're doing Kool-Aid, I would start with the blue and add like tiny amounts of orange until you got that minty color. But that's actually worked pretty well. So basically, yellow, when it gets pigmented enough, when it comes to dyes, looks orange. So yeah, there's that. You found Kool-Aid at Walmart? Oh, awesome. How much of Wilton's gel color do I use for 100 grams? I typically start around a half teaspoon of the icing color for 100 grams of yarn. That's what I do for like violet. For black, I use a 1/4 teaspoon. So I'll use a 1/4 teaspoon for black. But then for anything else, you know, there's some colors that, I don't remember if ivory's, there's some colors that are fairly pale, so you might want a little bit more. It depends on the relative pigmentation level. Kathleen, will RIT break? I don't know. So RIT dye powders break. So when I talk about breaking, there's a few different ways that we can consider it. With acid dyes, for example, does it break if you have the liquid form and like paint on it? Do you see different colors come out? But there's another kind of breaking you can see sometimes, because a lot of the pre-mixed colors you get are mixtures of different dyes. So when you speckle, you'll actually see different colors. And so that's another way that you can refer to breaking. But so it's not really the colors separating as much as like there's different pigments in the dye that it's like a mixture, and so they sort of separate. Fiber by Nature, I would say DM me about it, but not today, but DM me and I'll take a look. Actually, and I think you probably can't add any links to chat because I think YouTube wouldn't let you anyway. But yeah, if it's a cause you think I'd be interested in, then just message me about it and I'll check it out. So oh yeah, so Kathleen, so will RIT break? I'm not sure. I don't know if I've seen it specifically. It very well could, but I'm not. The thing with food coloring, it's really easy to predict if food coloring will break. If you see a mixture of red and blue in any capacity, it's going to break with food coloring, with artificial food coloring. But when it comes to, don't turn off computer. But when it comes to, for example, and you can usually see like on the label. So cherry is red 40 and there's a tiny bit of blue 1. It's not going to break really because there's probably so little blue in it that the red overwhelms it. But something like the grape that has red 40 and blue 1, you might actually get to see some breaking. But with commercial dyes, they don't necessarily have the ingredients on the label, so I don't have as good of a feeling. Certainly, there are some commercial acid dye colors that strike faster than others. So, for example, fluorescent colors will break apart. A lot of fluorescent colors will break, but a lot of fluorescent colors require a lot more time to absorb to the yarn, whereas some other colors can strike really fast. So yeah, that's just something to think about. Okay, I think I've got most of the questions that were submitted to me in advance. So if you guys have any other questions, and especially if I missed one while I was chatting, please add it. Also, Stop and Shop had Kool-Aid 5 for $1 last week. Yeah, so that's why, like, when I see Kool-Aid, I think the regular price is 3 for $1. And so, but you know, buying it online, it is, I don't know, it's more expensive. So, that's why I thought I was so clever when I got this. And then what? So there's, oh, I'm like, ooh, 69 servings, but 8 servings is worth 1 packet of Kool-Aid. So there's 8 servings in one of these. And so I've got so much, but it doesn't go that far. So I just have to use it. But there's really no problem using sugar mixes, sugar drink mixes, or sugar beverages to dye yarn. The sugar will wash right out. So that isn't a problem. I actually even use sugar for speckling sometimes. So there's that. With pressed pigments, so like eyeshadow, I'm not sure. I haven't tried any makeups. And so I don't know. I believe Red 40, which is a food coloring, is sometimes an ingredient of a pressed pigment. Yeah, so I think it depends. It's sort of like with natural dyes, it depends so much on whether or not the color can work to dye yarn. For example, with some things, the water might be a beautiful pink, but then you dye the yarn and it's brown, just because of the way that the colored molecules oxidize or just react with different things. And so it can be hard to know for sure what will give a beautiful color or what kind of color. Sounds like the color, yeah, maybe the colors didn't stick. I'm not sure about the size of the molecules. Food coloring molecules are pretty big, but I mean, there's pretty big, but there's a really huge relative difference. Cochineal can be used to dye yarn. Did I have a food coloring that had some in it? Maybe. But I think cochineal is like a source of red dye. And so, yeah, I mean, that could work. Yeah, there's a lot of pigments. Yeah. Red, no, I don't think red. Okay, I'm gonna look this up now. No, red 40 is not cochineal. It's a separate red dye. I'm not sure what it's derived. I think cochineal is like its own thing. Is carmine? Yeah, red 40 is not derived from carmine. Oh, no worries, no worries. But yes, it is. So carmine is, and I mean, I only know this because of a certain like YouTube series. But red, like carmine is a red pigment used from, that gives like a good pink that is derived from bugs. And oh no, I don't think these are reusable zip ties, and I just, man, okay, so it's a pigment that comes from like crushed beetles, and so makeup brands that say are vegan don't use it, and so sometimes they use pressed pigments because what they're using is different, because they're trying to find other red pigments to use instead of using carmine, and so yeah, but that's just, I don't know. I don't wear a lot of makeup. So I don't know a lot about like what's in the pressed pigments. But um, my mom gave me some old expired makeup and I don't know where I put it. She gave it to me like a long time ago. She gave me some expired makeup because I'm like, oh, maybe I can try to see if you can dye yarn with it. But in general, I guess I would say if something stains your skin, it could potentially dye yarn. So, uh, so you can't wait to do your sock crate with your stepson. Um, oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry, Patricia, for your loss. I mean, I love dyeing yarn with my kids, and they like dyeing yarn and creating the yarn that I'm going to use for their hats and stuff like that. And so it's just a really fun way to do something together. But I am so sorry for your loss. Beets. What about kid watercolor sets? I'm not sure what the pigments are. I haven't tried chalk or anything like that either. Sharpies would work. I've found accidentally that washable kids markers become permanent if you steam set. I used it to mark something for tie-dye, and then like I steamed the shirt and then the marks didn't wash out and I was really bummed. So that was something that I learned. But I don't know about using them to dye yarn. Highlighters, I've dyed yarn with highlighters though. So beets are a fugitive dye, which means that over time it will fade. And so it's one that like most natural dyeing books and stuff actually recommend kind of avoiding, but it's so tempting because when you boil beets, you get that red water. So I've tried it once and I didn't even get a temporary pink. I need to try it again. So that's my answer with that. Your 3-year-old helped you dye hang a stock yarn with Easter egg dye tablets, and it was really pretty. Oh, is carmine and red lipstick? It probably is. I don't know. Like I don't really wear lipstick. I occasionally do, but I don't. Oh, I don't have a drum carder. That's something that is on my dream list. Because I feel like, so I've gone down my journey of adding color to yarn has been so fun. But it definitely started with, ooh, I have too much white yarn. I need to dye it. And then I was like, ooh, I want to explore other ways. I need to learn how to spin so I can blend colors together in a way I can't with just dyeing the finished yarn. And then I'm like, ooh, I want to card fibers together and blend them so I can make colors, like make my own heathered colors. And yeah, so I don't know. I love playing with color and yarn. I'm very, very passionate about it, as you can see. But yeah, I don't have any recommendations with drum carders because I've actually never used one. I guess the closest look was at Stitches Midwest way back in the day when I could go to fiber festivals. It's funny, there's not as many, like, I'm in Massachusetts, and so a lot of big fiber fairs and stuff are in New York, and which is relatively close by, but it'd be like really expensive to go to Vogue Knitting in New York City. But I mean, I'd like to. Who knows what's going to happen over the next year, but I'd like to start going to things again. When we lived outside of Chicago, it was really easy because I could just hop on the L and then go into the city to go to Vogue Knitting, and it was so much fun. I actually think that I met KnitCrate at like a Vogue Knitting booth, and so I think that that's really, really cool. Not that like that connection came back like these years later, but it was really fun. Are you watching my video? Oh, thank you. I try to have fun, and my goal is to make yarn dyeing approachable and accessible, and to try to make it feel unintimidating and like you can do it. That is my goal. You don't know how to knit. Fiber and nature, do you crochet? I love crocheting. I'm not as good at it. I'm a much stronger knitter, but like I enjoy it a lot. My enthusiasm is contagious. So thank you. That means that I'm doing my job. But all right, I think I'm going to wrap things up because it is very hot up here and I'm starting to glow a little bit. Sorry. Oh, but yeah, I don't know. Another huge thank you to KnitCrate. I mean, having like my logo and my mug here show up inside something mailed to my door is just so amazing. And oh, Patricia Doll, thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, I'd love to learn how to weave. I am like in a rigid heddle loom group and like I'd love to be able to do that. Excuse me. Is there any way to make wet wool smell less? Your husband really doesn't like the way it smells. No, not all wool will stink, but usually like the lanolin content might cause that. But yeah, so some people don't like the smell of vinegar. Citric acid is fairly odorless. Not that Kool-Aid packets are odorless. There's a lot of scent in here. There's a workshop that teaches weaving in Western Mass. Oh man. No, it's more just about the like, my house is full of yarn. I'd love to get a loom, but yeah, the house is full of, I need to organize the stuff I have before I can be like, hey, can I get something else that's going to take up a lot of space? My family is very supportive though. And my kid, for the kindergarten Zoom today, the question was, what are you loving right now? And he wrote, I'm loving staying at home with my mom. I like dyeing yarn with her. And maybe it's just because I told him that we'll do some Pokemon inspired yarn soon. So yeah, no, it's more about like if not for, there's so many things I would want to learn. It's more of just the like space constraint issues. But yeah, no, he's a cutie, and there's already camp yarn was going to be part of the equation this summer anyway, but now, well, we have to see, because with two of them, it's a lot harder. With one of them, they can be like, okay, now, like the most recent video with Lucas, he was like, kept interjecting. I'm like, okay, I'm not in control of this video anymore. It's all you, my little project manager, I should start giving him producer credit. No, he's so sweet. And I have it written down too, which is amazing. But anyway, as I was saying, like this is huge and it's a huge honor. And I love seeing all the pictures of everything you guys are creating. It is, I was nervous how people would receive this, and people are so excited, and that means so much because I get to share something that I love, and I don't know, and KnitCrate was able to share me with more people, and it's just amazing. And so thank you all so much. Please continue to tag me in your projects. I love seeing it, and it's just really inspiring. Oh, I'm so glad you're so excited. Oh, this is just awesome. So again, you can sign up through the end of the month for $24.99. You get 200 grams of bare yarn. There are 4 different bases that you might get. You get 2 packets of Kool-Aid, depending on the color vibe that you pick. If you pick Energize Me, which is the warm toned, you will get orange and red. If you pick Chill Out, which is the cool toned, you will get red and purple. And if you choose all natural, you will get orange and grape, which combine to a awesome brown that I showed over there. And so, yeah, and there's discounts for Dyer Supplier included in here, tons and tons of patterns, both ones that were featured in previous months and some designers who have given coupons for free patterns now, and it is so much fun. I'm going to go ahead and drop my affiliate code in the chat one more time. You can save 20% off your first month of KnitCrate with the code ChemKnits20. This is an affiliate link. and codes, so I do earn commission off of it. So you don't have any obligation to use it. You can go straight directly to KnitCrate. Oh, nope, that was me copying the superwash versus nylon as I awkwardly bend over. You thinking about starting your own dye company and selling to your local yarn store? Oh, awesome. Yeah, there's actually a Facebook group for indie dyer business owners that is a great resource if you're thinking about joining a shop. There's lots of good questions about like business practices and contracts with local yarn stores and things like that. Yes. Oh, right. And there's the surprise me option. And so then you get the anything goes. You get a surprise and it's a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for watching and being a part of this journey. And honestly, thank you guys so much for watching, because this opportunity is only possible because you guys like to watch my videos. So thank you. If you go to KnitCrate's YouTube channel, you can see a video that I made for them that features the creamsicle yarn and then the speckled yarn. This was 1 packet of Kool-Aid, and this was about half a packet or less each of grape and cherry on 200 grams. Is the yeah, no, I mean, I think that it's a fair price. If you are concerned, like if you go to Dyer Supplier, you can go to Dyer Supplier directly and get bare yarn. And the video that I made is still available for free on KnitCrate's YouTube channel. So I will post, I've got a Dyer Supplier affiliate link as well. So you can go there directly to get bare yarn. And so that's fine. But I think, you know, you definitely there's a coupon code with the KnitCrate. And I think it's good through June 10th, I believe. And they will email it out. I think if you join today, you could probably like email them and ask if they could send it to you. But yeah, so there's a coupon code in it, so then you can go and get more bare yarn. You want to dip dye this one? It's so fun. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Subscribe. Yeah, and thank you. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful evening. And oh, I almost forgot my new tradition, my social distancing hug from me to you. And stuff's hard, stuff's scary, and I hope that I can bring a little bit of smile and whimsy and color. And so that is what I'm going to try to keep doing as much as I can. So you won't get yours until well after the expiration date. If in that case, I would reach out to KnitCrate and tell them that you're going to sign up, because I did send the code in an email to KnitCrate members. So I had the code before my crates just arrived. There are some, like, shipping is slower right now just because they have to limit the number of staff in the warehouse and stuff. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know for sure, and I don't know if they're still here, but I have a feeling that if you just sign up for KnitCrate, and then, you know, you have your order number and stuff, if you email customer service and say, hey, can I have the coupon code for Dyer Supplier, so that way I can make an order before my KnitCrate comes, it's worth a shot. No such thing as too much yarn. Ask my husband. It's everywhere. And I just ordered a ton more. All right, I am going to go and get ready for tomorrow. Yes, international packages are taking a lot longer. I have never had things get stuck in customs, like going to Europe, and I've had things get stuck and that we're waiting on. So fingers crossed. But all right, everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching. I'll chat with you all soon. Bye. Oh, and stay tuned for a fun new video tomorrow morning. Oh, KnitCrate. Haha, wait. KnitCrate's here. Yes, please email customer service with the question. Best to get your email in before the end of the month so that we can honor the promotion. So yes, email KnitCrate customer service, and they're still here. I'm glad. Thank you, KnitCrate, so much. You guys are awesome, and I will chat with you all soon. Bye.